Hello, everybody, and hope everyone's doing wonderful as usual. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, I invite you to subscribe for more content. So I definitely appreciate you watching the video. And all right, so I've got a really fun video. It's a follow-up. I did one earlier about how many grandparents that we have. And I was trying to figure out, there's kind of a rough first draft, that one. And there's a lot of information in there. So I whittled it down to try to get a more refined number because a lot of those numbers weren't making sense to me. So after spending some time doing that, I've got a much better set of data to share with you guys. So, but it just to kind of summarize everything. So if you think about it, our grandparents are, so everybody has two parents, and then they have two parents, and then that number just doubles on both sides of the family in each direction. So that number can get pretty big pretty quick. So there has to be a stopping point, of course. But what is like the most? I was just curious. I was having these conversations back and forth with my spiritual guides while I was doing this, and was trying to understand the data, and then while putting them together, and they were able to confirm at least, at minimum, everybody alive today has 1 million grandmothers and 1 million grandfathers. Period. And that's a starting point. So it does go higher. I don't know how much higher, and that's the next step in my research here. I'm going to try to figure out. But that's a really big number if you think about it. I mean, 2 million people minimum. And it's just one of those things you don't really think about on a day-to-day basis. At least I never did until I started putting this information together. And so I'm going to show you the spreadsheet now and how I got to this information, and to kind of explain it a little bit further. Okay, so here is the spreadsheet, and I'll do my best to explain this. I had a really fun time putting this together too. And all right, so what I did was started with the parents, and of course, naturally, everybody has two parents, and then each parent, of course, has two parents. So now you have 4 grandparents, and if those 4 grandparents each have 2 parents, now you have 8 great-grandparents times 2 is 16. So that number keeps doubling no matter what. So 32, 64, 128, all the way down. And I'll explain like these colors and what all this means down here in just a minute. But that is the number pattern for how many grandparents you have based on this starting point here. Now, I was averaging because I was trying to get like a time frame too, and this is the tricky part. So basically broke it out into 3 columns. This is just kind of a rough average. But what this means is your parents either had you at about 20 years of age, 30 years of age, or 40 years of age. And again, this is just kind of my own average here that I put together just to get a general idea. And then I followed the same, just like I did with this column here, column C, I followed the same pattern downwards for each one. So if your parents, for example, had you, say, younger, they were 20, when they're 40, then they could be grandparents 20 years later. So like if their kids are 20 at that point, and then they have kids at age 20, just like when they did, if your parents were 20, then you'd be a grandparent at age 40. If you had kids when you were 30, and then your kids also had, kids when they were 30, you would be 60 years old as a grandparent. And of course, 40 and then 80. So this just kind of gives a very rough span or time frame for each generation. And I just use the same pattern all the way down. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's by 20 years every time. This one's by 30 years every time, and then 40 years every time. So in other words, like your grandparents are going to be somewhere between 40 to 80 years older than you. So this is the range. 20 to 40 for your parents, 40 to 80. Once you get to your great-grandparents, 60 to 120, etc. So And then in the first column here, just to make it easy, I numbered what level of grandparent that you're at. So grandparent, great-grandparent, of course, and then great-great. That's what 2 times stand for. So great-great. This one's 3 times. Great-great-great-grandparents. And then it just, of course, goes up one at a time. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way down. So as you can see, okay, so there has to be a stopping point, though. In other words, like on the first video I did, because if this number keeps doubling, it gets way out of control really quickly. So as you can see, here's 1,000, 2,000. Once you get into the millions, okay, so now it's doubled. I'll explain these colors in a minute, but now it's 2 million, 4 million. Just a few lines down, you're all of a sudden at 134 million, 268 million, you know, half a billion, and then a billion. Oh, no, I'm sorry, trillion. Wait. Did I say that right? Billion. Okay. So, billion. This is still in the millions. I'm sorry. So 16 million, 33 million, and then here's 134 million, 268 million, 536 million, and all of a sudden a billion. So there's 8 billion people on the planet right now. So if you could see, if we keep doubling this number, we're going to be in the trillions pretty time soon. So you can't have more grandparents than people that existed on Earth. So now I did get the world population in general. So for the past 12,000 years, as long as we've been tracking Homo sapiens, which is our current species of human, the number has gone gradually up. So for the past 12,000 years ago, there was about 2 to 3 million Homo sapiens on planet Earth. Or I think it's Homo sapiens. That's what we are. There's a bunch of different categories. But our current species that you and I are right now goes back about 12,000 years. And the number just gradually goes up. So it starts at 3 million, and it's just like a trend, a curve that goes gradually up. It never like goes back down. It goes 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, and then eventually it gets all the way to 8 billion. So in other words, as this number here gets bigger, you know, number of grandparents. Let me just put in the 8 billion number here. That's million, billion people. Okay, that's 8 billion people. So as this number for the grandparents here gets bigger and bigger, as we go back in time, the world population gradually gets smaller and smaller. So they're going to come to a point eventually where the two numbers meet, and then that's where they don't exceed each other. And that's what these red numbers are here. So right about 1,100 years ago, the world population was, I'm using this number right here, the biggest number. So about 1,100 years ago, the world population was about 363 million people. And then if you keep going back another 10 or 11,000 years, this number just keeps getting smaller and smaller. So you can see how much the world has grown in the past 900 to 1,000 years. It's gone from 363 million all the way up to 8 billion. And again, this number here just keeps getting smaller and smaller. All the way back, if you go all the way back 12,000 years ago, so 10,000 BC, this number finally gets smaller and smaller and smaller until 10,000 BC, it's 3 million. And then in this category, it just gradually gets bigger and bigger. So this is where the two numbers kind of meet right here, and that's why I put this in red. So, because right here, if we go 27 generations back, now we're at 500 million, and that's just more than the world population, period. So this is where the two numbers meet right here. So this is where they even out. So that means no matter what, really, our grandparents, at least based on our current species and everything like that, that's as far as this number, as high as this number would get. Now, I did ask my spiritual guides, I was like, well, there's got to be a minimum threshold here for every single person that's alive on planet Earth today, which there is, and that's what these green numbers here are. So I had asked them, no matter what, no matter how many billions and billions of people, you know, are born and die each year, and as this number gets smaller over the past 12,000 years, everybody at least has, I was trying to find like a good, big, impressive number to kind of start from. So I had asked, does everybody that's alive on Earth right now have at least 1 million grandmothers and 1 million grandfathers? And the answer was yes. at the 1 million mark. So no matter what, this is a good starting point. Now, I haven't analyzed the data quite yet between this point all the way up to this point here. So in other words, at a certain point, we just max out, with our grandparents. It just stops. It goes up to a certain point. So where that balance is, and it's going to be kind of a moving average, just based on the rise and fall of populations. I really laughed hard at this too with my spiritual guides at a certain point, several times, because here's the reason. If this number here, our grandparents, if it meets, if we keep that number starts doubling until it meets the world population. Well, the world population, remember, this number goes smaller and smaller, all the way down to 300 over the course of the past 12,000 years. So this number has to remain balanced with this number. It can never, your number of grandparents, of course, can never exceed the world population. What that means is this number, as it balances each other out, because it gets smaller and smaller, remember, the further back we go in time, that just means that more people were related to each other. So inbreeding, in other words. So the further that goes back, the more that's a reality. As the number gets smaller. I laughed so hard when we were talking about that. But anyways, it's a reality, I'm afraid. And that's what the numbers are showing us. And I did some research online too, and it actually that's actually I think I saw that first when I was researching this, and I just laughed when I read it, but it makes sense. So there's some genetic websites and stuff like that you can go out there and research this kind of information, and they'll tell you the same thing. So, well, there you have it for now. So just to let you know, this number right here, so about 19 great-grandparents, great, 19 times. This is a good minimum starting point to understand the truth of how many, every single one of us right now that's alive on Earth has 2 million grandparents, meaning 1 million grandfathers, 1 million grandmothers. That's this number right here. This is right where it doubles. So that explains the data here and the information that I put together. Okay, you guys, so there's the information. I thought it was fascinating and funny and interesting and just fun to put together. And so a little bit more fun information here to kind of leave off on a positive note as well. So if you think about it, so now the afterlife is real, of course, and everybody over there that once lived on Earth is over there waiting for us and wishing us well. That is 100% true. You can just imagine how big your families are over there. And this is just grandparents. So then you've got aunts and uncles and cousins and who knows, and probably new words and terms that we've never heard of. And then people that are marrying into the family too. So you have in-laws and that sort of thing. And if you have grandparents that are like thousands of years old, you probably have just huge families. I can't imagine what the family reunions would be like. I mean, so like down here, you have grandparents and aunts and uncles and immediate family. Maybe you might have 50 or 60 people, in your family. There are millions of people that's just starting with your grandparents only. So probably tens of millions of people over there that are part of your family. And then you have people marrying into other families that also have tens of millions of people. So you're talking like your family reunions are the size of like the whole country. You're talking like hundreds of millions of people, like a large country, like, the United States of America, like the whole thing. And of course, with immortality and unlimited, infinite life and time, we have the time to do these sorts of things and the ability. But I can't imagine. It just must be one huge... Oh, man, can you imagine? And then you have all these birthdays that you got to keep track of. Because if you think about it, there's 2 million grandparents. Of course, they always remember your birthday. Hopefully, they're supposed to, while we're down here. That's like 2 million different birthdays you've got to remember. That's just your grandparents, and then you got cousins and uncles and friends and that sort of thing. Oh man, so another reason why infinity and infinite possibility is so important, so you can have the ability to do these things. And remember, everything is infinite possibility. Anything you can imagine is possible over there. So you can keep track of these things, and you have the ability. It's heaven, it's paradise. Everything's possible. Angels are a good template. They can be in infinite locations at all the time. They don't have to eat or sleep. You don't have to if you don't want to. Once we find ourselves over there, they can speak infinite languages and have infinite powers and abilities. So do we, and this is a great way to be able to use them when we get over there, because that's a lot of birthday presents and cards and stuff you got to remember. Now, on the other hand, of course, grandparents, they have kind of that, in general, there's an archetype for here on Earth. They're supposed to be like sweet or loving, older, and they give you presents and hugs and kisses, and they embarrass you, and they just love you unconditionally as their grandchild. So, and that's just like 4 grandparents. So can you imagine like 2 million? 2 million people minimum. Again, this is just a starting point for the number of family that you have over there. And it works the other way around too. So not only do you have to remember all their, or keep track of all their presents and birthdays over there, remember they're all real, very real individuals, and are very much aware of you down here, and are rooting you on 100%, just to let you know. All millions of your grandparents. So they also have presents waiting for you. If you think about it, they're just 100%. And I confirm this too. I mean, everybody that crosses over from Earth, they're just excited at more and more family that keeps coming over, waiting to meet them and that sort of thing. And on the flip side of everything, they have to remember your birthday presents and your birthday as well too, just like you do theirs. So I did the math. Say you're about 50 years old, or once you turn 50, we're all going to be 50 one day if we haven't turned that age already. If you have, let me see, where did I put that? If you have 2 million grandparents and you're 50 years old, that's if they each get you one present, you have at least 100 million presents waiting for you in the afterlife. Of course, if you live to be like 100 years old, you'll have 200 million presents. One from each grandparent for each birthday. But remember, grandparents are great, so they don't get you just one present. Plus, there's Christmas presents. You haven't met these millions of so they're saving up. This is literally true, too. So they have, you guys, billions, trillions. Remember, infinity. The number is never ending. But these numbers kind of give us a good starting point. So if you live to 100 and then you die, you'll have minimum 200 million birthday presents from your grandparents waiting. That's only if they get you one each. Then there's Christmas, and so you have a bunch of presents waiting for you for every Christmas. Plus they buy you presents when you cross into the afterlife, so you have a ton of presents waiting. And so now we just went from hundreds of millions to billions and trillions and never-ending presents from your grandparents waiting for you in the afterlife. So I thought that was a great fact to share, to kind of break it down and to help contextualize or give context and conceptualize, to what awaits us when we cross over. So it's fun stuff to think about, and it's great stuff to ponder, and the numbers don't lie. And that's just scratching the surface. So it is, that's just the starting point of how awesome it is and who's waiting for us. And it just gets bigger and bigger and better the more you think about it. So it's great stuff, and it's awesome to consider and think about. So I hope you found it interesting and funny and awesome and inspiring and truthful. as well. Just please know that this is real information and this is true stuff. Um, and It blew my mind, and I just had to share it with you guys. So I hope you loved it as much as I loved sharing it with you. Any thoughts, please let me know, of course, as always, in the comments, or if you have any ideas or thoughts or questions. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'm grateful for that. So please take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next video. And subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll keep more content coming. Thank you so much.